So let's just talk about what I would say is the bubbling over rivalry between Davy Fitz and Liam Cahill. Because we saw last year with a bit of a finger wag and a smirk, that seemed good nature, but I think there's a little undercurrent there. There's a bit of a cold war, even in terms of how this is developing. Now, I know you have some quotes there, but you look at maybe Liam Cahill last week, and he's talking about the players and what they did with Waterford, suggesting that, they made the decision themselves. This is how it's coming across. And then previously, Davy talking about basically the players being in their boots when he took over from Cahill. Now, he didn't directly say anything about Cahill, but there was constant references to the team he took over and maybe the confidence that they had at that stage. But you might take us back a little bit there.
I don't know about you, but I cannot wait for this, because this has been bubbling for a while. Like, this is bubbling back, looking back at probably 2022, realistically. So obviously, if the straight up nature that like Cahill was staying on for year 4 in Waterford, and then all of a sudden there was, the wheels came off after, you wouldn't say after winning the league, you'd probably say in the second half of that Munster campaign, that kind of harrowing loss to Clare down in Ennis, where, like, by all accounts, the Waterford team was known by all and sundry the day before the match. And I know of people that had hefty bets on Patrick Curran to score more. I think it was like more than 5 points or something like that, but he was going to be on the freeze. That had gotten out, and Stephen Bennett was no longer on the freeze. And Liam Cahill, they were obviously well beaten that day. Liam Cahill went on Shore Sport, was back on TG Carter maybe towards the end of summer, start of autumn, and he was interviewed and he was going again with Waterford for year 4, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and Colin Bonner was gone from Tipperary. Cahill was gone from Waterford 2 days later, maybe even a day later. He's in Tipperary. Waterford have a protracted process then to fill Cahill's boots. Davy comes back in, and I thought the talk from Davy straight away, without making any reference to Cahill, was very, very pointed. And I'm even talking about Munster co-op games, league games, that he had taken over basically damaged goods, and that there was some, mental fragility from the previous regime. Again, without mentioning Cahill. And then you had that was a tasty league game in Thurles last year. It was the first time they'd really kind of come in contact with each other. And there was a few bits behind the scenes. I don't think Cahill was saying anything, to be honest with you. It was more Davy stoking the fire, in my opinion. And people in the know will say that Stephen Bennett was one of the how should we say, leading personnel maybe were pointing towards a change in regime in Waterford. And it was very obvious that Tipperary went after Stephen Bennett, I would say, that night in Thurles, and he was very, very full on. Was he sent off the same night, or did he definitely got a yellow anyway? And Mikey Breen was on him that night, and it looked like he was detailed on him with a specific task in mind. Tipperary won that game. Waterford came back at different stages, and it was a right good game. The two boys shook hands after. Cahill was very, very animated on the line that night, I would say. And there was that finger wag, and you're kind of thinking, these two boys are going to meet at the end of Munster, and this is going to be absolute fireworks. But before then, Cork absolutely annihilated Waterford in the second round of Munster. And that was when Davy came out with this, taking over a team that had, emotional damage or whatever. And they met, obviously, in the last round of Munster then, and Tip were legless, and Waterford were missing a load of bodies, but produced a brilliant, brilliant performance. And Cahill came out then and said that he thought the commentary, without mentioning Davy, because they've never mentioned each other's names, which makes it so good. He said that he thought that was unfair commentary, and he said Waterford showed how good they are today, and they're one of the best teams in the country or whatever. And then obviously Davy, I don't know about you, but Davy has kept going back to this.
Can I just jump in there and let you go back again? When Davy spoke about emotional damage, we'll just paraphrase it as that. Does he have a fair point? Because you would say that between the time of winning the National League in 2022, and that was Cahill's team, and they played unbelievably in the league, especially the league semi-final and final. And, beat Tipperary the first day out. Cahill has won 4 of his 5 games against Tipperary, which was very good going when he was Waterford manager. They beat Tipperary the first day out. Not the best Tipperary team in the world. They gave everything against Limerick when Limerick were missing lads, and ended up losing. And I said at the time that's going to have a big psychological impact. Got hammered the whole lot. But maybe they never recovered from that. So when Davy says, a bit of a team with emotional issues or whatever, maybe there's something to that. So, it's very easy to dismiss it, especially when Davy's results weren't going well. But,
Yeah, they were only beaten, I think, Cork maybe beat them by 5 in round 3 down in Walsh Park, but they needed a big result against Clare the last day, and it looked like the wheels had completely come off. And as I always said to you before, anytime there's the whole team coming out, a couple of days beforehand, and who's playing and who's not playing, and who's hitting frees, and it's not good. Listen, maybe there was something to that. I definitely wouldn't have thought it at the time. At the end of the day, Cahill's regime in Waterford got them to an All-Ireland final from nowhere, got them to an All-Ireland semi-final, won a league title. Who did they beat along the way? Like, they beat championship wins over Cork, Kilkenny, Tip, who else? Galway, like big teams. And played some of the best stuff, champagne stuff, I would have said. And I think, like, with the way Davy was setting up, and particularly in this year's league, and he kept going back to the fact that we have problems that we have to sort behind the scenes or whatever, and it kept kind of, I would say, like, sticking the finger in at the previous regime, which was obviously a very, very good regime for nearly the whole bulk of the 3 years, barring the last maybe, I'd say really only the last game was when the wheels totally came off. And then, like, just to add further spice to it, like Liam Cahill's comments the last day after, been beaten 15 points by Limerick, his comments that were like independent comments, I would say. There was no one, teed it up for him or anything like that. It was all, his independent thoughts coming out, and he had a right cut at Derek McGrath in it as well, basically saying, and some people would say that, there were things going on behind the scenes with Derek McGrath while Liam was manager. And, some would say, not me, I don't know the facts of it, and we'll never know the facts of it, that, there was a potential that he was trying to undermine him. We'll never know whether that was true or not, and that could be just hearsay. But Liam obviously had something stuck in his craw, and came out with that comment after, saying that, they were, only 18 months ago, they were branded as the second best team in the country, and their former manager, again, who he didn't name, which is brilliant, because it's all kind of cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors kind of stuff. But he basically said that,
he hasn't been heard for 18 months.
Yeah, and the thing about that, is what he's implying there is that Derek McGrath was front and centre, and on the RT podcast the day after the league final, saying that Waterford, the team that beats Waterford, will go up the steps, basically saying Waterford have a right chance of winning the All-Ireland this year and potentially are the best team in the country. And basically what Liam is saying then, when the wheels completely came off in Waterford, you'd say in 2023, and they were out of the Munster campaign after the third round, and they were going through a terrible league campaign. Basically what he's saying there is there hasn't been sight nor sound of Derek throughout all of that. And some people would say that, I know Davy was on the Sunday game with Derek at different stages, and that they'd have similar philosophies on hurling, and that Liam, I reckon, was implying that you basically put pressure on me when I was Waterford manager. Why aren't you doing the same and being fair when a perceived buddy of yours is Waterford manager? So that's what I would take from it. But the beauty of it is that everybody can take a different angle from what they've both been saying at different times down through the last 2 years, and that's the fascinating part of it.
And I can understand, like, what I'm saying earlier about, I can understand why Davy Fitz would be able to make the case of saying maybe there's a bit of emotional damage and, stuff like that. But then you'd look at from Cahill's point of view and think, okay, the best hurling post-2016 that the likes of Austin Gleeson ever did was under him in those couple of seasons when they were getting out of Munster and onto Croke Park and playing great stuff. You look at Stephen Bennett. He was nominated as a hurler a year under
brilliant, yeah. Best hurling he's ever played, yeah.
And you could say that about a lot of players, that the best stuff they ever produced was under him. Now, at the same time, you can look at what Cahill isn't fully saying, but implying by talking about Derek and Davy and stuff like that. And you can be like, well, yeah, we haven't really had any bold pronouncements from Derek McGrath about Davy Fitz. Now, maybe there's an element of once bitten, twice shy, because he did get hit pretty hard in terms of like hyping up his team a little bit. And I would hope, I mean, I've no reason to believe anything other than that he was excited and just talking about his county in a way that, maybe any supporter would.
And hoping that, like, you imagine the underlying thing is like, I want my county to win the All Ireland, and I don't know, like, sure, why do you say tipper back every time they win a game? Because you get excited anytime you see anything where there's potential for maybe they will actually go up the steps this year.
Yeah, every time they win a side, I can cut him nearly saying. But like even what Davy said, or sorry, Liam, I should say, said after the game last week, the players seem to talk about Waterford. The players seem to have found their style now that really suits them, and they had in an All Ireland final, semi-final, league final, a National League title. So he's really saying that they've gone back to the style of play that we had with them, and that they've. I mean, look, it feels like he's inferring that the team has abandoned what Davy wanted to do, and they're gone back playing his way, which is a way that really suits them.
Yeah, like there's an element here. Really, is Davy did not give Liam Cahill any credit for all the good things he did throughout his reign, and with Liam Cahill's comments there, he hasn't given Davy any credit for the performance. The performance the last.
It's a Cold War, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. Like, I don't know about you, like whatever what's going on between the white lines, like you'd imagine it would be fairly spicy on the sideline. You obviously have Liam going back to Waterford, where he was very well got by all accounts. Outside of that, the final period of his reign, he did some great things down there. And the thing about it is, as well, is that probably another one of the main reasons why, whatever about the Limerick result last weekend, but even historically in recent history, one of the main reasons that Waterford will have no fear for Tipperary is that Cahill, was the man in charge of them, basically, when they banished any demons they may have had with them, and to have totally had the upper hand. They've beaten them, I think, the last 4 times they've met in the championship, have they, I think, and then you have the draw in 2018. Like, so when was the last time Tip beat Waterford? Maybe go back to that Munster final, Hammering?
Waterford have won the last 3. So last year they won by 6. 2022 they won by 4 points. 2021, that was the quarter final that Waterford won by, I think for a finish it was 7, but it was a couple of late goals that maybe padded that out a little. 2019, this was Pádraig Fanning's sole season.
Yes.
And after they got to a league final, things didn't work out for them in the championship, and Tip won by, 18 points. So that was an awful hammering there. And then just before that, there was the draw. That was the day. Were Waterford 10 points ahead that day in the Gaelic grounds, and there was the ghost goal and all that? Were Waterford that far ahead? They had a load of changes.
They were a good bit ahead. They pick up a couple of injuries the same day as well. The ghost goal definitely turned momentum the same day. But this current crop of Waterford players will have absolutely zero fear of this current crop of Tipperary players, and have so much muscle memory of basically beating them, and very, very good memories of playing against them as well.
So we've talked about where the rivalry has come from and in what areas it's kind of branched out. Do you think we're going to see a little bit of fireworks on the sideline this Saturday evening at Walsh Park? I think there's going to be John.
I'd imagine so. Like, we didn't see any last year, and a lot of that was to do with, like I said, Tip lacked energy on the pitch, and there was probably lack of energy potentially on the sideline as well. Tip looked a beaten docket after 10 minutes, I would say, the last day. They were bringing no energy, and it was funny.
10 minutes? Will you go away?
Last year.
Sorry, last year? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were talking about in this game.
No, I'm just saying against Waterford, like, Tip looked legless last year against Waterford. You knew, unless they're able to get over the hump here, they were on the back foot straight away. And there was no, it's funny, I was watching The Last Dance recently, and Michael Jordan just said, but lads coming at him with abuse or anything like that, or Mountain, and he just said, it's easy to come at me at the start when it's level or when you're winning by 10. But, like, he'd really appreciate the lad that would come at him verbally and, like, attack him or really put pressure on him, maybe when they were down a couple of points. So there was none of that in last year's game. Like, Cahill's going to have to bring massive energy for himself and the team on Saturday as well, because Tip lacked energy last week. I don't know if that had anything to do with the proximity of the training camp in Portugal. They were back, 9 days from, I'd imagine, training pretty hard. Maybe they get a bit more of a bounce this weekend from that, or you'll see the benefits of that this weekend. But I would be expecting fireworks on the sideline, and I would be expecting fireworks on the pitch. From a Tipperary point of view, there has to be fireworks, because this is it. Like, they have to produce something to keep themselves alive. And just on this as well, Shane, the one thing I will say, like, about Cahill's comments, Waterford will definitely be forewarned now about what's coming. Well, you know what I mean? Any chance of them sleepwalking into this game like that or blown out the window? I'm sure Davy wouldn't have allowed that anyway. But Cahill has stoked the fires 6 days out from this game. So Waterford will know what's coming, and I'm sure they'll be fighting fire with fire from the start.